Sanhedrin Daf Pe Amud Aleph, 13 lines down. Amar Mor, we said earlier, previously on Sanhedrin, Im'ad Shaloni Ichmar Dina Yadav, the cow that was sentenced to death. If it gave birth before the verdict was finalized, Vilda Mutared, then that child is mutar because it wasn't yet asur. However, even though it was pregnant already when it killed someone. So meaning it already did the act that it's being sentenced for. But if it didn't get sentenced yet, even though it was pregnant at the time of the act, it's still the animal, the offspring, the child, the fetus is not considered asur yet. The Gemara says, if a child, baby cow, cannot be used as a that baby cannot be used as a korban. Neither that he because the reason is not only can the animal that gored can't be used as a korban, but even the baby can't be used as a korban because technically they gored together. For instance, it's also a baby of a cow that was sodomized also can't be used as a korban. He because it's as if they both got with part of the sodomy. So we see from here, however, from the first case, however, that Rava holds that the baby is part of the mother to make it asur for a korban. So how come same thing isn't allowed? The Gemara says, "Emma imat shelo nechmar dina ibera v'yada v'yada mutar. Im shenechmar dina ibera v'yada v'yada asur." You change it. Okay, it's true. If it's part of the act, if it's pregnant while it killed someone, then you can't use it. It's mutar. It's asur even if it's before the verdict. However, over here the Gemara is saying that if it conceived and gave birth before the verdict was announced, then it's mutar. If it conceived and gave birth after the verdict, then it's asur. This makes sense according to the opinion that holds that when you have a asur item and a mutar item together, it stays asur. And it makes sense because we have the baby is a mutar item, is an item that comes from a asur mother and a mutar father. So this makes sense that you can't have it because it comes from the asur mother, and we say that if plus minus equals minus, the negative overcomes and therefore it becomes asur. However, the man damar mutar, but according to the opinion that holds that if you have a forbidden item with a permitted item, the father is mutar, the mother is a asur cow, then it comes out mutar. How do you explain this case? We said it's asur. The Gemara says, the Brayta says as follows: if the cow conceived and gave birth before the verdict, then it's mutar. Because however, if the cow conceived after the verdict and gave birth after the verdict was final, sorry, if the cow conceived before the verdict and gave birth after the verdict was finalized, it's asur because it's like as if it's a part of the leg of the mother, and therefore it's asur. The Gemara says, "Kol hayad mitot," in our Mishnah said any people that were sentenced to death in all different types of people, all four mitot, for example, and they're all mixed together in a room. We said that there's mahoket, what you give them. But we know that you give them the most lenient one. The Gemara says, "Shema mina mutared alayim v'hamur v'hamir mutared alayka." We see from our Mishnah's ruling, from the fact that you give the least standing execution to that group, we see that you're allowed to give a person who was warned for a more severe mita is you're allowed to give him a life. So let's say the guy says, "Oh, if you do that, you're gonna be chayav sekila." He gives him the warning, but really he was only chayav henek. It still works. The Gemara says, "So we're trying to reprove." The Gemara says, "No, it might be that. Maybe yeah." So over here, kigon shehetur bostam. Our Mishnah is talking about a case where they got warned, but he didn't warn him with what, right? The Hatana who in the following Mishnah says that Tanya Bretta says in order to execute someone, you need to have bedin, witnesses, and a warning. And you have to tell them that you're going to die by bedin. You don't have to actually mention which one. Rabbi, however, argues. You have to also, part of the warning, you have to warn him that if you do that, you're going to be chayav a certain type of mita. Okay. Tana kama yalif mim mekoshesh. And we say that the reason why a person does not need a warning is because we see that you executed the guy from the mekoshesh. We see the guy who cut down the wood. They said, "Don't cut it, you're going to die." But they didn't know what mitah to give him yet, so they couldn't have warned him what they gave him. They couldn't have warned him he's going to get anything. And therefore, if they kill him, must be you don't need a warning. Gemara says, Rita says, "No, I don't need to learn from Mikoshesh because Mikoshesh is not a proof. Mikoshesh was a special occasion, a special reason what happened. It was a unicorn situation where they had to kill someone. They couldn't let him get off scot-free, so they warned him because they didn't know what to warn him with, and that's why they're able to kill him. But in general, in general, why are we do need to let the guy we do need to let the guy know what he needs, what he's going to die with, what execution. Gemara says, "Haneskalin ben nisrafin." People who got stoned, who are Hayam Mitah stoned, or got mixed with those who got Hayam Mitah burning. Rabbi Shimon says, burning is more chamor, therefore you do stoning. Hamim say, since burning is less chamor, you do burning. Mahloket, what it was. Let's say you have Serefa guys mixed with Sekila guys. Rabbi Shimon says, Rabbi Shimon says, you give him Sekila because burning is worse. Don't teach them. He said to his father, his son, Rabbi Haskell, his son, told his father, Dad, don't do this. Why does Rabbi Shimon say that Serifah is worse? Typically, Bedruin is cleaning, right? It's not because of that. It's rather because the majority of people are Chayav Sekila. And since the majority in that group were Chayav Sekila, you can assume it's Chayav Sekila. Nothing to do with Ma'hok Rabbi Shimon and severity of the executions. Rabbi answered him. So he says, he said, okay, fine. He asking his son very respectfully. Okay, how should I teach Mishnah? And Selena Serafin says, okay, no, the Sekila got mixed with Serefa. Rabbi Shimon uses Sekila because the majority is burning. Right? So this version says that the majority is burning, and therefore you give burning. Right? So he said, you give him Sekila because burning is more severe. And the majority of the group is have Serefa as well. That's why you're able to give it. That's the case. It must say for the next part of Mishnah says, they argue with Rabbi Shimon, say, no, give him Serefa because Sekila is more Hamor. Why do you need that reasoning? That it's Rov Serefa, it's majority of Serefa. And that's why. Why do you need the reason to say that the Serefa is less Hamor, is more lenient? Just say that it's because it's majority. So the Gemara says, he says, no, they weren't arguing. They were, Hachamim were responding to Rabbi Shimon's reasoning in Rabbi Shimon's opinion. Meaning, according to you, that holds Serefa is more Hamor, lo Sekila Hamura. That's not the reason why. Rather, you have to give Sekila because Sekila is more Hamor. Right? Meaning, the reason, according to you, that holds Serefa is Hamor, you can't do that but we hold Sekila is more Hamor. They weren't arguing per se. They were just saying they're disagreeing with Rabbi Shimon according to Rabbi Shimon's opinion. Now we mentioned earlier that Rabbi Haskell told his father off. Rabbi Yehuda told his father Haskell off. He said, "Dad, don't do that." So Amar Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Shimon told Rabbi Yehuda, "Shinina, my dear sharp one." He calls him sharp one, which means a very smart son, smart rabbi. Lo tema de le avi hachi. He says, don't talk to your father in that manner. Right? He says, you have to talk respectfully to your father. So even if you see your father doing an Isur, you shouldn't say to him, oh, Dad, you violated an Isur Torah. Rather, you should tell him, Dad, doesn't this say in the Torah? The Gemara says, 1 second. It's kind of the same thing. Don't do that, the Torah says, versus, Dad, doesn't it say this? It's kind of the same thing. It's still disrespectful. The Gemara says, okay, fine. You should just quote the pasuk in the Torah. The Torah says this, right? And therefore, you quote the pasuk, and you don't bring it to the dad's actions per se. You just quote it, quote unquote, anonymously, and let the dad make his own connection. Okay, we'll stop here.